Every single person on Earth is a symbiote, almost like venom. Only the second essence within our bodies is not able to manifest itself externally. This invisible part occupies more than half our body. Scientists are already working on a way to monitor its condition after every trip to the toilet. This type of quick analysis done by sampling the water would make it possible to understand the state of one's symbiosis. Studies have shown that our bodies are only 43% human. The remaining 57% belongs to the alien colonist of sorts. Although with such ratios, it is not clear who exactly is hosting who. We are not talking about alien invaders per se, but about the microbiome. You're more of a microbe than a person, says Professor Rob Knight of the University of California. He's not joking. It was previously thought that there are 10 times more human cells in our bodies than microbial ones. However, modern research has proven that this is not the case. Our body contains an average of about 30 trillion human cells, and they contain about 39 trillion cells of various microorganisms. This is an enormous number of individual colonies that have created a common organism inside our bodies. Well, also on the outside. A person's complete set of genes consists of 20,000 different combinations. Granted, these are only those that encode proteins. If you add non-coding types here, you get about 47,000. But for this discussion, it's not that important. Since the total number of microbial genes in the same human body is somewhere between 2 and 20 million, who here is really the master? It would be naive to think that the 53% of the foreign genome inside our body has no effect on it in any way. Microbiologist Sarkis Mazmanian is convinced that a person cannot truly be considered as a creature with only one genome. It is the combination of one's own DNA and a vast array of microbial DNA that makes a person what he is. Wash your hands with antibacterial soap. Watch your health to avoid catching a virus and restore the intestinal microflora. This is almost all the knowledge the average person has about the microbiome. In fact, these invisible agents cause many diseases. But without them, we would not be able to digest food, would have a weak immune system, and would not even absorb our much-needed vitamins. The microscopic creatures in the human body are necessary for survival, just as microbes need our body to live. The microbiome is made up of different particles. Some of them are viruses. In the traditional sense, they are not even alive. These infectious agents have to get into the living cell of another organism and capture it, which is the only way viruses are able to reproduce. Viruses are extremely small in size, ranging from 20 to 400 nanometers in diameter. Some of these little guys look rather alarming. Some look like rods, some look like spheres, and some look like alien centipedes. It would be especially unpleasant to meet a bacteriophage the size of a rat. Bacteriophages got their name because they infect the cells of bacteria and archaea, two other types of microorganisms that live inside us. Bacteria are tens and hundreds of times larger than viruses, and most often they can be seen under a microscope. Bacteria are distinguished by their shapes. Those similar to spheres are called cocci, and those to sticks, bacilli. Sinuous and curved bacteria are classified as spirochetes, spirilla, and vibrios. Previously, archaea were also considered bacteria. They're quite similar in many ways and also come from bacteriophages. But still, it is a different form of life in the human microbiome. We also have fungi in our bodies, from candida and ringworm to deadly histoplasmosis. The simplest unicellular organisms are able to penetrate the human body, causing malaria and dysentery. Another group of living organisms inside us may be helminths. Recently, scientists have added another class of infectious agents to this list: prions. These are abnormally folded protein particles. When in contact with a normal protein in the body, they turn into a similar one. It is believed that prions cause Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, an absolutely fatal brain disease. 57% of our body is made up of a combination of various representatives from these groups. Their largest concentration is in the large intestine. When we talk about the highest concentration, we don't just mean different parts of the human body. The human colon has the highest microbial density of any known habitat on Earth. Imagine the following. In the last section of your digestive tract, there are anywhere from 300 to 1,000 species of living organisms. The vast majority of them belong to 30 to 40 different types. And here's another interesting fact. It is bacteria that make up to 60% of the dry mass of feces. If this information is already too much for you, then you'd best just stop now, because further down the road, we're going to talk about the bacteria in the mouth, and you definitely won't be able to forget that bit. First of all, scientists have noticed that the oral microbiome plays a crucial role in its protection and normal functioning. Microorganisms living there can only cause problem if the balance between them is disturbed. For example, some bacteria or fungi begin to multiply more actively. By the way, there can be more of such microscopic inhabitants in the mouth of one healthy person than there are people on Earth. Researchers have found 615 types of bacteria in the human mouth. Together with these, there are also at least 85 genera of fungi, viruses, and other representatives of the microbiome that can be found there. By the way, that myth that there are fewer bacteria in the mouth of dogs than in the mouth of a person has since been debunked. In one recent study, more than 600 types of bacteria were found in dogs, which is about the same number as in humans. If we study the surface of a healthy person's eyes, we'll find representatives of at least 59 genera of 5 types of bacteria. Now, shall we move on to what's there on the surface of the skin or genitals? Obviously in the context of how microbes can get into the human body. Microbes use 4 doors to enter a person. One of them is the respiratory tract. You can inhale a virus or fungal spores. That might be the flu or the same histoplasmosis. Another door is the gastrointestinal tract. Put simply, we eat the pathogen. That's why everything should be washed and not touched with dirty hands. Some types of microorganisms enter the body through the urogenital tract. In other words, sexually transmitted. And the last door is through the wounds on the surface of the skin, even ordinary scratches that we pay no attention to. In all these ways, harmful agents enter the body from the outside, and their appearance inside us can lead to various illnesses. But the vast majority of the human microbiome takes root in the body, so to speak, on an ongoing basis. And without this component, we would not be able to survive. If you had any doubts about the fact that all people are unique, then they'll be dispelled from here on out. Each person has a different set of microbes from birth, and it has a frightening effect on our entire lives, as it happens in symbiosis. Negative impact on the baby's microbiome threatens to bring serious consequences. Of particularly great importance is the way the child was born, naturally or by cesarean section, whether they were breastfed or not, whether they were given medication, and even which animals they came into contact with. One of the worst scenarios is if the baby was born by cesarean section, fed formula, and treated with antibiotics. The microbiome of these children suffers greatly. Up to the age of 12, this will affect their physical and mental development. What a thing, huh? If your mood changes while watching this video, it's possible that the microbiome is to blame. Scientists are finding more and more evidence that it can affect mood, as well as have a direct link with the development of autism, multiple sclerosis, and Parkinson's disease. In all of these cases, we are talking about the microbiome located in the intestine. It is this organ that is ultimately responsible for human health. It may come as a surprise to you that the gut has its own immune system, but you already know that immunity provides protection and therefore the health of the body. It is in the intestinal part of the immune system that antibodies are produced, which are then delivered to other areas of the body. If there are problems in the intestines, the circuit fails, and the overall protection provided is reduced. And all this happens because the immune system of the intestine makes up 70 to 80% of the total immunity. It turns out that our body's level of protection actually depends on the state of the intestine. And the functioning of this organ is inextricably linked with its microbiome, which in turn is influenced, among other things, by our diet. But even here, it's not so simple. Warning, we're about to examine some dirty but interesting experiments with feces. And they relate to the topic of obesity. A diet of processed foods, fast food, and other junk food often causes weight gain. The fact is that such products contribute to the growth of certain types of microorganisms in the digestive tract. Scientists have suggested that food can have a harmful effect precisely because of the wrong set of bacteria in the intestines. In order to test this, Professor Rob Knight raised a generation of mice in the most sterile conditions possible. The researcher then transplanted them with fecal samples from both normal weight and obese people. It sounds strange, but the main point is the result, and it was astounding. Mice that were initially 100% identical began to change. Some lost weight, while others got better. Granted, not everything is that clear here, partially because they're lab mice, not people. But the direction of fecal microbiota transplantation does exist. It's experimental, but already showing good results in the treatment of diseases in the gastrointestinal tract. It even opens up prospects in the fight against multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's disease. There are even more unexpected studies. For example, Professor Karen Svanos studies the relationship between the human microbiome and the development of cancer. She believes that microorganisms can both help in its treatment and worsen the condition of a cancer patient. Many progressive scientists are already looking at microbes as a new form of medicine. But for now, our interaction with our own microbiome is reduced mostly to war. The main weapons against it are antibiotics and vaccines. On one hand, they have saved millions of people from smallpox, tuberculosis, or Staphylococcus aureus. And on the other hand, our artillery against the bad guys kills the good ones too. Antibiotics wreak havoc on the healthy microbiome by disrupting its function. And while the medicine was actively fighting infections, autoimmune diseases and allergies took their place. Their swift growth in recent decades is terrifying. Correction of the microbiome could potentially become a universal remedy. Every time we flush the toilet, we throw away a huge amount of useful information regarding our body. It takes literally a ton of DVDs to burn the data encrypted in 1 teaspoon of feces. All this information is stored in the DNA of our microbiome. Scientists hope that in the future, after each visit to the toilet, a person will be able to receive an analysis of data on the state of his microbiome. They would immediately know if something had gone wrong in their body and would be able to fix it. How much would you like such a fantastic future? Share your thoughts in the comments below and let us know what you think about the symbiosis of humans and microbes.